Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today. Today we are going to learn and look at how social media affects adolescents' development, specifically how it shapes identity and emotions and peer relationships and overall mental health. Most of us have access to social media or have grown up on social media, so you'll know a lot about what we talk about today. But my goal is to connect our real world experiences to the psychological concepts that we've been learning. So, just a quick learning objectives. So, by the end of this lesson, you should be able to give me I'd be able to identify both the negatives and the positive effects of social media on teens specifically, and explain why adolescents are sensitive to online feedback and apply that research concepts to real world experiences or scenarios and reflect on our own online identity. We'll also do two short activities to help us connect the material to the experiences you've probably had or observed. So, just going over the adolescence overview. So before we dive in, it's important to review what adolescence actually is, and not just socially, but psychologically. And so adolescence is a period of rapid neural and emotional development. And teens are navigating huge tasks. They're forming an identity, learning emotional regulation, and managing intense social pressures. They're constantly asking themselves, like, who am I? Who likes me? Why do they like me? Why don't they like me? Where do I fit in? That sort of thing. So, what's important is what research consistently shows is that their brains are wired completely differently during the stage. And the reward system, specifically the dopamine pathways, become highly sensitive. So, scrolling, receiving likes, notifications, new contact, or new content, activities, that sort of thing, or reward circuitry in a way that feels especially intense for adolescents. So, at the same time, the prefrontal cortex is being, developed. This part of the brain is responsible for judgment, impulse control, and long-term decision making is still developing, all while experiencing this. So, this combination makes teens a bit reactive into social media feedback and more vulnerable to comparing themselves to others. So imagine all of these developmental tasks happening while being consistently plugged in to social media. You have a brain that's wired for heightened sensitivity of approval, attention, and the peer status, and the app designed to give rapid, unpredictable hits of social media feedback. And that's where the psychological challenges really show up. The Child Mild Institute notes that teens are especially prone to anxiety and mood shift when exposed to nonstop social media comparison, and performance pressure and online social dynamics. Even the Pew Research Center of 2024 data shows that how deeply social media is woven into teen identity. Nearly all teens say that social media platforms shape what's normal or socially acceptable. And when that becomes the filter through teens' judgments themselves, it can amplify insecurity, stress, or the fear of missing out. So, when we think of psychology and behind it, teens aren't just using social media; they're developing it. Their sense of self-worth and their emotional coping skills, even when their real relationships don't look like what they're being influenced by. So this makes social media not just a tool in their lives, but a major psychological environment that they are growing up inside of. So next I'd like to talk about the teen social media trends. So this chart shows that there are general trends in teen use of major platforms. As you can see that TikTok is one of the highest ranking ones, and YouTube are extremely high and popular as well, followed by Instagram and Snapchat. So to make this a little more personal, I also want to ask you to fill out a pre-class survey. And based on your responses, most people in this room use between 3 to 5 hours of social media per day, with TikTok being the most common app. So this tells us one thing very clearly, and this is that social media is a major social environment for today's adolescents, just like school or peer groups, things like that. So the negative effects. Let's dive into some of the research packed negative outcomes, and more importantly, why these outcomes hit teens especially hard from a psychological standpoint. First, social comparison. So apps like Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat are built around a highlight reel. According to the Child Mind Institute of 2025, constant exposure to idolized bodies, lifestyles, and achievements can distort teens' sense of what's normal. Psychologically, teens are in a stage where their identity is fragile and is still forming. So when they are compared themselves to these unrealistic images, it can directly affect their self-esteem, their body image, and even their mood stability. So second is cyberbullying and online conflict. Pew Research of 2024 shows that a large percentage of teens have experienced either harassment or just like bullying online. And this psychological issue here isn't just the context, it's or the content, it's a constant access. We have it right at our fingertips. So unlike a schoolyard conflict or an online hostility follows teens across every environment. So when they come home, and the NESI 2023 notes that the adolescent brain reacts strongly to social threats, activating stress response similar to like a physical anger or danger, excuse me. So a negative comment can feel much bigger than it seems. So third, FOMO, the fear of missing out. This is probably one we can all relate to. And this hits a reward system hard. When teens see their friends hanging out and achieving things without them, their brain intercepts it as a loss of social media status. Psychologically today, 2024 explains that these feelings trigger anxiety, rumination, increased craving of more online engagement. So it's almost like an addictive thing, which can only makes the cycle stronger. Fourth is sleep issues. And finally, addictive patterns, as we kind of discussed. Adolescents naturally have a more sensitive dopamine system. Social media platforms with unpredictable notifications like likes and fresh content tap into that directly. So, and Goldfish describes this dopamine loop as a slot machine effect, where teens compulsively check and recheck apps because their brain is searching for that next reward hit. Since the prefrontal isn't fully developed yet, it's harder for teens to regulate impulses or set healthy boundaries. So, let's see here. But there's also positive effects as well. So, now that we've talked about the challenges, let's talk about the positive side because not all social media is bad, and research backs this up. Psychologists like Jacqueline Nessie of 2023, she emphasizes that the impact of social media isn't dependent on how much you use it, but it's how you use it. So the first identity exploration is adolescence is a major period of identity formation. Teens are experimenting with their interests, with their values, with their personal style, so many aspects. So online spaces give them a really low risk environment to really explore those like who they are. So, and according to the Child Mind Institution, this can help teens feel more confident trying to find new parts about themselves, and especially if they don't have these opportunities in person. So the another great way that social media is a positive is the creativity and the self-expression, kind of going hand in hand. But teens are naturally wired for self-discovery and self-presentation. So platforms like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube allows them to express their humor and sides of themselves that maybe they don't get to offline. Psychology Today suggests that this kind of creativity activates a reward pathway in a positive way. So this is giving teens a sense of accomplishment and mastery and autonomy, which are all psychologically important during adolescence. Finally, social connection. So at this stage of development, friendships are central to emotional well-being. So teens are using social media to maintain relationships and build group identity and stay involved with people they care about. Pew's 2024 report shows that a huge number of teens feel social media has helped strengthen their friendships by keeping them updated and connected even outside of school. So even though that there are real risks, there's also real benefits of social media, and if it's used in a healthy way, in intentional ways, it can be beneficial. For many teens, these platforms provide a connection and support and creativity, and space to develop their identity. To all which are essential for psychological tasks during adolescence. So, we can do a activity, and this is to identify an online self audit. So, for this next activity, sorry, my nose is so itchy. We're going to work individually, and we're going to take a moment to think about our online presence and how we present ourselves on platforms. So, here are just some reflection prompts that you can use during this. So, what does your online self look like? What do you choose to show or hide? How do you feel? Do you feel it to appear in a certain way? And does the approval affect how you feel about yourself? That's an important one. And how different is your online identity from your real one? You have about 3 minutes of personal quiet time to reflect on this. So the assessment and wrap up. So before we finish, we'll do a quick post-knowledge check-in to see what stuck with you. So this includes one reflection question and how today's session shaped your thinking about social media and development. To wrap up, the biggest takeaway is social media is not simply good or bad for teens, okay? So it depends heavily on how, why, and how often it's being used. The more we understand developmental side, the better we can support these healthy habits. So, thank you all for participating. Your engagement made this class really meaningful. If you want to explore this topic more, I'll also share a take-home list of articles and some other tools that you can use to help your knowledge on this today. Thank you.